Disney fans, thank you for joining Team V24 for episode number 2 of the Wonders of the World podcast. My name is Kyle, aka 6bits Kyle over on Twitter. Today I'm joined by my co-host Reed, and Reed, before we jump in to this week's episode, which is going to be the top 5 table service restaurants in Disney World, we get some Twitter feedback from the listeners. We're going to read those off as well. But before we do that, for those of you who didn't catch last week's episode number 1, we did top 5 attractions. Very, very broad. Top 5 attractions. Basically, the way it works is it's usually 3 of us. Chris is unable to join us tonight, so just Reed and I tonight. But we usually have a roundtable discussion. We each come to the table with our top 5 picks, and we read it off in sort of a list format. We pass it back and forth. If there is a commonality, we'll basically chat about it and present to you, the listeners, why we feel it makes our list. It's a really cool concept. I love the idea. It's great for interaction. You're able to contribute. Everybody has their own favorites. That's why we all love Walt Disney World and Disney parks in general, because it does connect a little bit differently with everybody. So hopefully you enjoy the list format. We certainly love sharing it and getting to know what others really enjoy. You get to learn some things. Might be a hidden gem that you've never even sat down and dined at, for instance, in today's show. So something Reed might bring to the table today. I didn't even consider. I've never dined there before, so it's going to be a learning experience for everybody. So I really like that, and hearing what other people prefer or like to do down in Walt Disney World. So Reed, without further ado, why don't you go ahead and jump right into your list here?
Sure, and I should mention that while Chris is not with us for this episode, he did provide us with a list of his top 5, so we'll be mentioning those as well throughout this episode. But I'm going to start off with one of the first character dining experiences that I've had in the past 10 years, and that would be at Chef Mickey's over at the Contemporary Resort. I went back in 2012 for the breakfast buffet and character breakfast, and it was quite a pleasant experience. The wait time was very low. They get you right in, and the character interaction is great, and the food is pretty great. If you match it up against, say, the Crystal Palace, which is also a buffet service for breakfast, it's much better, because at Crystal Palace I felt that I was really cramped into my section that my party did. Whereas at the Contemporary at Chef Mickey's, it's a little bit more wide open. It's easier for the characters to move around. It's easier for you to move around at your table. And the selection is much bigger than it is at the Crystal Palace. So that was my pick for my first one.
Yes.
And I should just note that that is not on Chris's list.
Yeah, it's not on my list either. I mean, to be honest, character dining in general, it's not something. I don't have children, so it's not really something that I seek out. Not that adults can't enjoy character dining. It's just typically those are priced a little bit higher, so it's just something that I don't typically do when I go to Walt Disney World. I often go during the fall time and take advantage of the free dining, and sometimes the free dining, you got to really take a look at the numbers. We all know it's not necessarily free. You still have to pay tips or any extras, appetizers. Character dining sometimes is worth it because it is a little bit higher, but you do have to crunch those numbers, and it just really hasn't been on my list. But certainly one of the most popular restaurants on property, Reed. Very difficult to get ADRs there, so I'll check it out eventually. It certainly is one of those, like I said, one of the most popular and difficult ADRs to get. So I'll jump into mine, and mine's going to be Hoop-Dee Review. This to me is a clear number 1 for me, and this is a good time. It's in no particular order, but this particular one is clearly number 1 for me. Hoop-Dee Review. I really love the show. I think it's funny. I think it's everybody, no matter what age group you are, if you're young, an adult or even a grandparent, everybody's going to enjoy the show. There's jokes that everybody's going to get. There's jokes that go over the kid's head. There's jokes that kids will enjoy. The food is all you can eat, family style. It includes a beer, wine, sangria, including the price. The price is very, very expensive, but you are getting a dinner show, and as I said, you're getting salad before the meal with bread. Main course, which is like ribs and fried chicken and your home style cooking food, and then you have dessert. So it's a pretty good value when you break it down. On the dining plan, it's not the best value because it is 2 table service credits. So I would recommend skipping that if you are on a dining plan and break the numbers down. As I said, it's certainly the dining plan is a different topic for a different day. But in terms of the actual restaurant, I love Pioneer Hall. I think it's great to get over to Fort Wilderness and see that special environment, atmosphere that's created over there. It's really special. It's like a whole world in itself. It's nice. It really takes you back to some of those old Western films or something like that. Great music, the banjos, and really enjoy Hoop to Do Review. So I don't believe that's on Chris's either, but certainly that makes my list.
Definitely. And I mean, you talk about that. We talk all the time about sit-down restaurants, and it seems like you go every time you go down to Disney World, and it sounds quite interesting. I'd like to eventually get over there. Unfortunately, it's just been too out of the way and not something that my whole party could agree on to go to, but it is definitely something that I'd like to try in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can understand why it doesn't appeal to everybody, especially when you're talking about, you compare it to the other dinner show on property is the Spirit Aloha over at Polynesia. And it's, a lot of people are going to be attracted to that, and I completely understand that. I've actually never experienced it, so I can't really judge or compare it. But Hoop to Review, it keeps me coming back. Like Reed said, I try to go every single trip, but it really pushes the budget. So, but if you do have it, I think you'll find it very, very enjoyable. One little tidbit, I guess, while we're on the ADRs, booking ADRs, although it's not very difficult to get ADRs here, I would suggest booking it as soon as possible, right at the ADR open window. The reason being is seat assignments are registered based on when you book the ADR. It's not a first come, first serve, so there's no need to get there 2 hours early thinking you're going to get the first table right up front. There's different categories, much like the other dinner show, but it is based on when you book. So if you're in category 1 and you book right away, right at your 180-day window, you're more than likely going to get a table right up front. And that's a little tip. I would highly recommend doing that, because you do notice, even though it's a great theater, you don't have to worry about where you sit. It is sometimes certainly a little bit more special to be right up front. So it's a little tip there. So Reed, where are we going to go? As I said, or do you want to give Chris's first one? Why don't we
I'll give one of Chris's. I believe this is also a place that is another 180-day type of booking, and that would be the California Grill. Chris says that he loves the view of Magic Kingdom, watching Wishes, and the food and the service is top-notch. I myself have not been to the California Grill. I know that from past experience, people talking about it, that it is very difficult to get into. It is one of the more pricey options. But then again, I normally use the deluxe dining plan, so I normally don't worry about pricing so much as how many table credit services I'm using. But then again, you also want to take price and stuff like that into comparison. As Kyle said, you do have to tip based on the amount of your bill. So that's something to take into consideration too. But I have not dined at California Grill.
Yeah, I haven't either, but certainly we've all seen pictures and or video. The most recent renovations that have taken place look really, really nice. I think it was a great renovation. I like the openness. It almost seems like it's even more open as hard as to, even though they didn't, but it seems like the windows are even bigger now. Some of the pictures that you see are just incredible. The views, you can't beat them. You have the deck that you're able to watch Wishes on, piping in the music. Very romantic. I would say it's a little bit more of an adult restaurant, especially with the menu. There is a lot of sushi on the menu. I'm actually not a fan of sushi or actually seafood in general, so that's kind of why I haven't dined there. They do have a bar, and they actually it looks like they've made it a little bit bigger than the old one post renovation here. So I may check it out in this next trip, at least to go maybe grab a drink or an appetizer, just to see the feeling of the restaurant and enjoy the views. Because unless you're staying at Contemporary Magic Kingdom, view, this is pretty incredible, and I know it's, as you said, Reed, it's right up there with Chef Mickey's and some of the more popular restaurants. ADRs are very difficult to come by here. Very popular place for engagements. I know Team V24 member Steve, I believe he was engaged here, so it's very, very popular. So certainly a great pick there by Chris. So Reed, why don't we go on to the next one on your list?
Sure. One of my other top picks is over in Disney Hollywood Studios, and that would be the Sci-Fi Diner. It's not known for its spectacular food, but I think the atmosphere is great, very original compared to pretty much any other dining option you'll have. I mean, sitting in cars watching short bits of cartoons, movies, and TV shows is pretty fun and interesting. It's great atmosphere for both kids and adults. The service is really, really good. and the food's above par compared to the rest of the options that you'll probably find in the Hollywood studios.
Yeah, I've dined here before, and it's a really, really cool, unique place, and I think that's the huge appeal for me. The reason why I went, it's cool to sit in the cars and watch the old sci-fi pics. One cool thing I think about this restaurant over the atmosphere is the prices. We've been talking about how expensive Hoop-Dee-Doo Review was and California Grill. The prices here are really, really cheap. Some of the cheapest you'll find on all property for a table service restaurant. So definitely don't use your dining plan for this, unless of course you're in the deluxe, and like Reed said, you kind of have you have so many credits that you really can't look at that. But in terms of the prices here, as I said, out-of-pocket prices are very, very reasonable. They have a wide range of menu items, everything from a burger all the way from a steak, so you can go any route you want. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool concept, excellent concept, and I love the lighting in there. I love the mural. I love it's a really cool restaurant. They did a great job theming it, so I can completely understand what you're saying in terms of the restaurant. This list, certainly it's a broad topic. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a 5-star dining experience in terms of the food. The atmosphere and environment in these restaurants are a huge, huge reason why some of them made the list for me. So I'm sure that's part of the reason why you're picking some of these as well.
Definitely, and I mean, this is also not a 180-day out type of reservation that you need to make. To make it, if you definitely want to go here, I would highly recommend making a reservation. You probably could end up doing a walk-in, but we attempted to do that on our last trip there, and the wait was about 2.5 hours if you wanted to try and hope that you could get a table. So I would consider that, being in the parks like that, not going to your average dinner at home. It's a little bit of a waste of time to waste 2 hours waiting for a dining service as opposed to maybe going something like the ABC Commissary and just grabbing food real quick. It's not some place I would recommend waiting that long, but if the wait's short, you're waiting 10-15 minutes to get in, then you might as well go in there. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to stay in the Hollywood Studios, and it's funny, we're going to have at least two restaurants here in the show from Hollywood Studios, and Hollywood Studios is typically known, for their thrill rides and not for their table service restaurants or food options for that matter. But I'm going to stay in the Hollywood Studios, and I'm going to go with 50s Primetime. I love 50s Primetime. Again, it's very reasonable out of pocket. They have it's your home style cooking again. The whole theme is your old 50s diner or 50s kitchen or dining room. I love the bar that's attached. I love Tune In Lounge that's attached to it. It's sort of their waiting room, but they do have a bar there. I love that lounge, one of my favorites on property. We'll get to that on another topic for another day. But the actual restaurant, awesome themed. You have an individual TV at most of the tables. Some tables are kind of thrown in the middle of the room, and there's still TVs up on the walls. But for the most part, more than likely you'll get a table with a TV on it. The cast members play the role perfectly. No elbows on the table, no hats, no cell phones. They really do a good job of keeping in the role and staying in their part. The
problem with me with this place is I kind of wanted to try it out this past trip when I went in 2012. But I wasn't sure my in-laws would be too acceptable as to how the cast members act. Mm-hmm. I know it's all an act, but I've heard horror stories of people that weren't aware if that's part of the deal. I almost feel like there should be a warning that comes along with this reservation as to how the cast members are told to act and how things will go throughout dinner. I personally probably wouldn't mind. It probably would be amusing to me. I knew my mother-in-law at least would not be thrilled with being told what she had to do. I've heard the food is very good, but again, I just wasn't able to dine there this past time that I went back in 2012. But maybe a future reservation down the road.
Yeah, I mean, and Tune In Lounge, like I said, is attached to 50s. So if you're there and you don't have an ADR, or you can't, or you're able to get one, walk in on it. Maybe sit at the bar, grab a drink, maybe an appetizer, and get a feel for the atmosphere. And they do have, even when they call your name, it's not a pager, or it's not a, quick little announcement over the intercom system. They come out and yell your last name. You know what you're getting into right away. So if that might be something, just bring them into the lounge, sit in the waiting room. It's themed exactly like the restaurant. restaurant, so it's really cool with the retro furniture. But it's the whole package for me. The food is good. It's not top notch. The value's there, and I love the interaction and the cast. So for that reason, those reasons, 50s is a must do and one of my restaurants I go to every time. What do we jump to? Another one from Chris's.
Chris is taking us over to Epcot with the Coral Reef restaurant. He says, it's just a cool experience with the sea life swimming by. I'm a huge fan of seafood and the former Living of the Seas attraction. Nemo's okay too. So this was an easily a great experience for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, have you had a chance to dine here?
I've actually dined there twice and had two separate types of experiences there. I went back in 2008 when I was on my honeymoon with my wife, and we actually didn't have a reservation. We walked in. It was quiet. We asked the maitre at the front if there was a possibility that we could get a seat. We didn't have a reservation, so on and so forth, but we happened to be wearing those magical little buttons that said we were on our honeymoon, which is why I think what happened. He said, hold on, can you wait about 10, 20 minutes? I'll see what I can do. He said, I have a table for you, come this way. We had a table for two right next to the tank. The food was excellent. The desserts were excellent. The drinks were excellent. The service was excellent. Of course, because of that experience, we definitely wanted to try it again. We went back with my in-laws and my daughter because we thought she'd enjoy the experience as well. And the service was less than stellar. And the food was far below the par that we expected from our last trip when we dined there. We sat like 2 aisles away from the tank, and it was quite loud and quite busy in there. The food, as I said, wasn't very great. It wasn't a great atmosphere. It wasn't very enjoyable. And the whole time I was just hoping that things would hurry up and get over with. And it seems like they've also increased their pricing as far as their menu goes and stuff like that. It's a extraordinarily expensive restaurant. Even though we were using the dining plan, the bill for 4 of us on the dining plan came to about $250. So it's got a wonderful atmosphere if it's relatively quiet in there, but if you're not next to the tank and it's really packed in there with a lot of families, you might not have that great of a time.
Yeah, I think the last line there was the key to that. If you're not on the floor level, the tank level, there's like 3 tiers. The tank level, and then there's another tier, and then a third tier where you kind of check in. And there is a level up there where you can sit down. I really see no point in dining unless you're on the bottom level there. I've dined here twice, like you, Reed, and same exact. It's funny. It's not the same years, but same exact experience. The first time I went, I was like blown away. I was right by the tank. I loved the restaurant. I thought the food was great. The quantity was it was a large quantity, great portions. The whole package. I just really, really enjoyed my time. The server was fantastic. I went back the following year, and it was still enjoyable. I choose to wait to sit by the tank. I know with kids it's not always easy. You're kind of you need to get in and out. But when we don't have kids, so I always ask. I don't mind waiting a half hour or whatever extra. I don't care. I want to sit down by the tank. As long as you can make that happen, I'm willing to wait. And they always accommodate. Maybe 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a half hour. But always sit by the tank. But the second time, even though it was at the tank, it was a whole different experience. The food, the portions. I got the same thing because the first time was great. I think it was just the roasted chicken. I'm not a huge seafood person, so it kind of makes it limited here. And the portion was like half the size, and I was like, whoa. I was amazed on the difference from year to year. Service was okay, but again, it just something declined year to year. And I've recent reviews sort of state that it's kind of in the same state of our last experiences, Reed. It's very expensive, like you said as well. Very, very expensive for one table service restaurant. It's tough to get in there. Understandably, it's a one-of-a-kind experience. I mean, I know SeaWorld has something very similar, but it's an awesome idea. but if you're not on that bottom floor, you lose the whole entire appeal of that restaurant. But keep in mind, if you're a couple without children, you're going to have kids coming up right on the side of your table to look in the tank. And I understand that. You have to expect that. You're at Disney World. But just keep in mind, it's it's not roped off. You're going to have people coming up to the tank. So I can completely understand, again, Chris, why he chose that. But Reed, I had very similar experiences, one positive and one not so positive, which is why I've never actually gone back ever since, and it's definitely not on my list.
And let's not forget that if you're listening out there during either while we're being broadcast online or on the station on V24, you can always interact with us at V24 Wonders on Twitter. Let us know what you think about our picks, as well as letting us know what your top 5 restaurant picks are as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and we're going to try to get the topic out to you a little bit earlier this week. I kind of slacked personally on the Twitter account, so I do appreciate the few listeners that did get us a list this week, but next week I'll try to get that out early to you so we can definitely get a few more of you on the station. We're going to try to read as many as we can, and we definitely have some for you at the end of this show, so definitely stay tuned for that. But I'm going to go over to Ohana now. I'm going to jump into my next one. I'm going to go over to Ohana, and I'm sure this makes a lot of people's lists. It's one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult ADR to get. All you can eat Brazilian style type restaurant. I'm sure you've heard of them if you haven't dined here before. They're sort of a craze. They're all over the place now. Every major city pretty much has one or two. The food is good, in my opinion. It's very good. I love almost the appetizers more than the main course. I love the pot stickers. I don't mind the noodles. I miss the potatoes, and some of you Ohana fans from maybe 5 years ago remember those. They used to have scalloped potatoes beforehand that were just fantastic, but they got rid of those and they replaced them with the noodles. I do enjoy the noodles, but I miss the potatoes. Fantastic meats, very good selection, everything, chicken, pork, to shrimp, steak, so good variety. The salad, I forgot about the salad. The salad dressing, I love it, and they also changed that again as well, but still very good. And the dessert, I know, Reed, I think you've been a huge fan of the dessert. The dessert is awesome as well. Bread pudding, banana bread pudding, with a great sauce on top. I love the views from here. I love the view of the lagoon. You can actually see the castle as well. I've been here during Wishes. They do pipe in the music. It's great for kids. They have tons of entertainment, whether it's coconut races or slow dancing with your parents. Just a really cool restaurant, and one, again, like Hoop Dee Review, I try to do all the time. Now, this is a one-table service credit, and on your dining plan, it's one of the best values you can get because it's very, very expensive, and the experience you get and the amount of food, it's just awesome. This restaurant really is the whole package, and I really, really love going to this restaurant. It's one of those places that when I'm there, I know I'm at Disney World. It's at the Polynesian. I love that restaurant, even though right now, in the next week or within the next week, supposedly is going to be closures down there. So we'll be seeing some crazy pictures, I'm sure, and some disappointed people considering how much money you have to pay to stay there. But renovations are needed. So we'll see what happens here. But the restaurant is definitely one of my favorites and makes my list, and I'm sure a lot of others.
Definitely, it actually does make Chris's and my own list as well. I went there for the first time back in 2012 and had an amazing experience. Like you said, I really almost enjoyed the appetizers far more than the main course itself. I love also the chicken wings that they provide. I don't know what kind of sauce they put those in, but they're amazing.
Wings, yeah.
I love the noodles. I love the salad. And, of course, my favorite part of the whole meal was the I believe it's pineapple coconut bread pudding with vanilla ice cream on top, and then Bananas Foster sauce on top of that. Mm-hmm. Probably the single best dessert you can get in Disney World. It's so good to the point that I had to hunt down the actual recipe, and I've made it several times in my own house. That's how
did it come out?
It came out really good. I made sure it came out good. But not nearly as good as probably what they prepared at Ohana, but we had a wonderful experience. We did happen to book a dinner show during Wishes, so they did pump in the music, and you could see the fireworks going off in the background. They were doing a bunch of different things as far as like the coconut races and stuff, and then they were asking who was there celebrating anniversaries and stuff like that with which my wife and I were. So we ended up going up and having the little hula guy playing his little ukulele, singing some sort of Elvis song, I'm sure. And we danced to that and got lays and stuff like that. And we actually had taken our 2-year-old daughter with us to that dinner, and she actually enjoyed the meal as well. She liked the atmosphere and she liked the food and stuff like that, and she was eating more than she had on the whole trip. So, but it's definitely a wonderful experience. If there's any place that if you can only choose one place to go for a sit-down dining, I would highly recommend making this one your one choice of the trip. And it's worth going out of the way for, going through the monorail to the Polynesian. It's just a great experience. And, of course, drinking a lapu-lapu out of a hollowed-out pineapple is always a fun experience as well.
Yeah, it's something that I think we all enjoy, especially Chris. Chris likes to overindulge in the lapu-lapus, but, you're on vacation. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody's judging.
and they have the drink that you recommended to me, which I picked up, which was pretty good as well, which is the back scratcher, which comes with an actual wooden back scratcher.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheaper. Lapu-lapus are really expensive. I mean, they do put a good amount of alcohol in there, but the back scratcher, is just a little bit cheaper. It's a little different, but it's still very unique. It comes with an actual back scratcher. Very tasty. They have a lot of cool drinks there. Like I said, we'll definitely go into a drinks and / a lounge shows in the future. But the Polynesian definitely is going to be featured on that show for sure. Was this on Chris's list?
Yes, it was. He wrote way too much food, but it's also good. Of course, you can order this drink called a lapu-lapu. You guys, referring to Kyle and I, are familiar with it. Yes, on the last trip, I actually met Chris for the first time, and he had a couple lapu-lapus. He's a tall guy, but he's not a very big guy, so it didn't take him long before no more lapu-lapus for the Canadian.
Yeah, it's funny he says too much food, and no matter if you're a competitive eater or not, there is a lot of food. Make sure you pace yourself because the appetizers are fantastic, and after a long day in the parks, you typically have a pretty good appetite. There's a lot of food. It just does not stop. So if you want to save some room for that dessert, you make sure you pace yourself. That's probably my number one downfall here, is I just go to town off those appetizers, and I end up having maybe one, piece of meat each, and then have maybe half of the dessert, if that, just because it's so heavy. The dessert's very heavy, but it's just it's food overload. It really is. So pace yourself. That's definitely another tip there. You said, Reed, that was on yours as well, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess I'll jump into my next one. I'm gonna go over to Downtown Disney, and I'm gonna go into one I think people are gonna be surprised about. But I'm gonna go to Raglan Road. Raglan Road, where to start? I've been here a lot. It seems to be one of these places that I went to way back when, maybe 6 years ago, one of my first trips as an adult. That I was blown away by the food. It just I wasn't expecting it. I'm not a huge fan of the Irish cuisine, but this has a little bit of everything on there. There's a lot of Americanized stuff, but there is some traditional stuff on there. But the food that I got tasted fantastic. I mean, just awesome food. Cool place. Really amazing, like stained glass dome in the middle above the dance floor. They do have entertainment at night with tap dancers and Irish step dancers. Really cool place. Huge bar if you're looking to just dine solo or with just a couple. Very, very, very large bar with plenty of beer options on tap. Always a plus. But in terms of the actual menu, I was blown away by it. The desserts are very, very good too. It's a different feel. It doesn't have the feel of Ohana or Sci-Fi. It's more of a traditional restaurant in the sense of your local cities. But in terms of the food, I was very, very surprised, and the ease of ADRs here. It just exceeded expectations in all the fields, all the categories that I take in consideration when I go to a restaurant. I've had some inconsistent things here. As I said, I've been here at least 5-6 times, and I probably have had 2 pretty bad experiences in terms of service. And the same exact meals, again, much like over at Coral Reef, inconsistencies in the same exact dish. And I just don't understand that. So I did take a year off, but I gave it another chance, and it came back to the exact experience that I remember from the first time that I went. So it's one of those things that I think you have to give it a try if you haven't been before. It's cheaper, so you'll be able to get out of there without getting whacked in your pocket. It is on the dining plan, and nightly entertainment, which is always good if you're looking for something to do outside of the parks. And as I said, if it's just a drink, huge bar, always ample seating. They do have happy hour outside for those of you that are over 21. I think it's like 3 to 6 in the afternoon. It's like $2 off all draft beers outside in the hole in the wall. I think it's called hole in the wall or corner in the wall. I'm not too sure the name of the outside lounge, but there is happy hour 3 to 6, I believe. So Raglan Road, yeah, that made my list.
It doesn't make my list. I've actually never eaten there. I normally don't dine most of the time in downtown Disney. Occasionally I'll go to some place like Wolfgang Puck, and I've been to the Planet Hollywood there before, but not a huge fan of eating in downtown Disney, aside from maybe either grabbing a snack or grabbing a quick service there. Mm-hmm. Usually spend more time browsing the area, going into the world of Disney as opposed to eating, maybe having a few drinks to walk around at, like they have the little margarita stand and stuff like that I might stop at.
Yeah, but with your daughter though, in the future, T-Rex. I don't know if you've had a chance to stop in there, even just to look in there. I mean, it takes Rainforest Cafe. It's like Rainforest Cafe on steroids. I know it's a little bit louder than Rainforest Cafe, so it may intimidate some of the younger children, but T-Rex is an awesome theme restaurant. I actually had a chance to sit at the bar, and the bar is super, super cool. Really nice lighted bar. It looks like ice, and it has lights underneath the bar, and then there's a huge fish tank in the back. It's a cool place, even if it's just a walk through. Go ahead and take a look. But that's definitely somewhere I would recommend in the future. It's not going to make your list, but it's definitely something to check out.
Yeah, we almost actually dined there on this past trip when we were in downtown Disney, but you're right, it is highly loud. And I've dined at the local Rainforest Cafe dozens of times, and it's not nearly as loud as what it was in the T-Rex restaurant. It seemed to overwhelm my 2-year-old quite a bit. Overwhelm me. I just was not willing to both tolerate the loudness and the wait just to sit in there to experience it. So we ended up not eating there that day. But as far as my next pick, I'm going to take us over to Epcot, to a place that I tried for the first time this past trip in 2012, and that would be Restaurant Marrakesh in the Moroccan Pavilion. Now, I tried it there on a whim, mainly because I've actually been over to Morocco. My brother-in-law lives there with his wife and her entire family. So I've had authentic Moroccan cuisine. It's really good. If you're into kind of like the Indian food type of atmosphere, this might be a place you might want to try. If you're not of the adventurous palate, I do not recommend trying this place out. The great part is that they do have musicians and a dancer that they come out occasionally. And it's usually really, really easy to walk in because most people don't know it's there, or it's just not of very popular taste. The food that I had was really, really authentic Moroccan cuisine. It wasn't phoned in or anything like that. It tasted just like I had over in Morocco. And the atmosphere is really nice and comforting and quiet. And the service is top-notch. The guy that we had as our waiter kept coming over, making sure our drinks were refilled, and the food came out really quickly. Was really well done. I believe I had a lamb dish that was in a tangine, which is popular for Moroccan dishes, and it was really delicious. If you're open to new food ideas, then I would highly recommend just taking a walk into this place and giving it a try.
Yeah, I dined here last year, actually. This was the first time I've ever been. It'll probably be my last one, and it's not because of anything negative. It is definitely a beautiful restaurant, quiet restaurant, as you said. The musicians were great, nice touch. It fit the Morocco Pavilion in general is just incredibly themed, and it's no different inside of this restaurant. If you're not interested in dining here, again, I would recommend walking through it. I actually did a couple years ago, and it's just just beautiful. The pictures don't even do it justice. It's unbelievable in there. It looks great. It looks like you're literally transformed overseas in a Moroccan restaurant, or is what I would envision one. The food was good. I wasn't impressed with the quantity. The portions I thought were a little small, but again, that might be more traditional. I don't know. I just kind of went in, as Reed said, it was there was no wait. I mean, really, there was very few people in there. It started to get a little crowded as we were leaving. It was good. The service was great. It was one of the best service I think I've ever had, so I definitely would agree with that. They had so many servers and staff members in there. For how many people were in there, I'm assuming their staff is ready for any kind of rush. But man, there was people walking by at all times, replacing drinks and refilling water. Really, really love that aspect of it. I really had no complaints besides the quantity. I thought was a little small for the prices, but again, it could be traditional. The dessert, I was a little disappointed with the flavor or the taste of what's the famous dessert or the traditional dessert? Is it bavaka? I'm not too sure. Baklava. Sorry, yeah, right. I got that, and it's like a sample plate of that, and there's like 3 or 4 different kinds, and like literally only one of them I could eat, and I guess that's a good thing because it probably was traditional, but I was not so impressed with that, and I can't remember the other dish my wife got, but again, I think it was like the yogurt dish or something like that. I can't remember. It was like a yogurt. I believe it was yogurt. It could have been like a vanilla ice cream or some sort, but couldn't even eat it. I mean, it just wasn't fancy in our palates. So, Reed, as you said, more than likely it was traditional. It just didn't touch our palates. So, cool place, really cool place. I don't want to say anything bad about it. Besides, it just wasn't my thing. But we want to give. Why don't we go for Chris? Where's Chris's next one?
His next one is Boma. Which I believe is over in Animal Kingdom, if I'm not correct.
Animal Kingdom Lodge, yeah. Animal Kingdom Lodge. Yep.
He says it's the best buffet he's tried, which includes both breakfast and dinner. Spectacular food, huge variety, save room for the dessert. He recommends the zebra domes.
Yeah, zebra domes. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Zebra domes are certainly have the cult following. But I've never been here for dinner. I've only been here for breakfast, and I've been here for breakfast many, many, many times. It's probably my favorite breakfast buffet on property. The rest, Animal Kingdom Lodge is great in general. The whole entire resort is beautiful. But Boma is very, very nice. It's very nicely themed for what it is. The seating area for the majority of it is very, very open and no walls, very few columns or pillars, whatever you want to describe it as. There is a few tables that are over by the windows that have a little bit more privacy, but the majority of the restaurant is sort of open. I don't want to say cafeteria, but it's that kind of open style. There is individual tables, but the actual buffet is huge, tons of options. There is a couple traditional options even for breakfast. Some spicier offerings that we don't find at some more. I'm sure you won't find it at Chef Mickey's, for example. But really, really love the breakfast. I tend to book my ADR here for like 10:45. I think it's like whatever the last breakfast time slot is. I think it's 10:45. And the reason why I do that is I get over to Animal Kingdom and I get a couple of the big main attractions out of the way, and then I take the bus from Animal Kingdom over to Animal Kingdom Lodge, and then I dine at Boma and walk around the resort. It's usually around that time, 11 o'clock. There's not many animals out, but there's a few out there. It's nice to just walk around the resort for a couple minutes, jump back on the bus, go over to Animal Kingdom, and finish, either the rest of the day or half day, whatever you prefer to do. But that Boma breakfast will carry you over right until dinner for probably everybody. It carries me over, and I'm a pretty good eater. So I love going to Boma breakfast. I can see why that made Chris's list, and it's definitely one of the more popular places. It's a bigger restaurant. I would recommend using ADRs, but I don't know if I would stress about planning that one at 180 days. It may not be necessary, at least during certain times of the year. Dinner, on the other hand, I've never been, but only positive stuff, much like the breakfast. I'm sure based on the quality and the offerings at breakfast, I'm sure dinner is just as good. Great place. I love Boma's breakfast buffet. So, Chris, cool pick there. Reed, where are you headed? Was this the last pick here?
Yeah, this would be my last one, and that would be we're taking it over to the Animal Kingdom, and that would be for the Yak and Yeti. This is another place that I tried on my last trip for the first time. It's actually in the same company line known as Landry's that does the T-Rex and the Rainforest Cafe restaurants. And I was really impressed with both the atmosphere and the food and the service. We sat down and ate with my whole family, which included my in-laws, my wife, and my daughter. And the service was really quick. The atmosphere inside is almost like that of the queue line for the Expedition Everest. It's a lot of
artifacts
and stuff like that. A lot of jade artifacts. It's really nice. It's a kind of like a little bit of an Asian type cuisine. The food is very good. I really enjoyed pretty much all of my meal. I can't remember exactly what I had. I just recall enjoying it. We did have a reservation, but I don't know if it was 100% necessary. They do have a quick service option if you prefer not to sit down and wait for a meal. It is something you probably could walk in, wait for a sit down, although when we went, it was very, very busy. It is one of the places I would recommend in the Animal Kingdom. There's not too many choices for a sit down, but this is one I would recommend going out of the way for.
Yeah, I've dined here before. It's not going to be on my list here, but cool place, like you said, very, very similar to Everest Queue Line. They have a lot of nice artifacts and some replicas or whatever you want to call it. Cool furniture. Tables are really nicely themed. A nice small bar when you first walk in. I love the sign actually outside. I love the sign. It just fits in so perfect with the theming of Animal Kingdom. And I love the little tidbit, air conditioning. You know, it's just so funny because Animal Kingdom, we all know, is extremely warm and it's noticeably warmer than the other parks pretty much all year round. So it's funny to say air conditioning, and I understand why they put it there, the theming, but it's just so funny when you walk in, you know, it's just, it just fits. It really does. They do a great job theming this restaurant. I didn't know that little tidbit that it was the Landry's, I believe that's what you said. I didn't realize it was part of that family, but that's interesting. Food was good when I went there. Cool dessert. They had the like little skewers of fruit and wontons or whatever it was with the cream cheese frosting. It was really, really good. Food was pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the cuisine again, but big restaurant. I could see what you mean, Reed. During the busier times, I'm sure you need ADRs, but when I was there, the entire upstairs didn't even have one party because I think the bathrooms were up there when I went. And the upstairs had nobody sitting there, so I'm sure it does get busy during the summer months because there's very few options for table services in Animal Kingdom. But yeah, cool restaurant, very nicely themed.
Definitely. And looking at the menu, it is kind of like if you're familiar with something like a P.F. Chang's. It's similar to that type of deal. It's mainly Asian type cuisine. Stuff like lettuce wraps, wonton soup, egg rolls, pot stickers are appetizers with stuff like mahi-mahi, duck, shrimp, chicken, tuna, and lo mein as main courses.
Yeah. Like I said, for certainly in Animal Kingdom, it's probably your best option. One of the best options anyway. I love Flame Tree, but that's not a table service. So we'll be talking about that another day. I guess I'll jump into my last one here. I'm gonna go over to Yachtsman Steakhouse. I went back and forth between Yachtsman and a couple other restaurants. It was very difficult to find my fifth one, and not that I haven't had really good experiences elsewhere, but I just think Yachtsman deserves to be on there because I was fortunate to go on my honeymoon, and very expensive, obviously, very, very expensive. The restaurant is your traditional steakhouse, upscale steakhouse, very, very basic. It's not over the top flashy. Your waiters and waitresses have the white aprons on. You walk in, when you first walk in the door, there's the butcher cutting the beef into the specific, cuts of the meat. Everything's sort of, no, it's not a la carte like most steakhouses. They do come with sides. But they don't rush you out of here. I remember there's the first thing, because I'm not usually a fine fine dining, person when I go on vacation. I kind of like to just sit down, have a meal, and get out of there. I'm not looking for the 1 to 2 hour marathon, I should say. But this place was at least 2 hours. When we sat down, they brought over some bread. Man, one of the best bread baskets in all of the world. Great, like an onion roll in there. Fantastic. But the meal was just so slow. I remember ordering the drink, and the drink came out maybe 5-10 minutes later, and then we enjoyed the bread, and then it was appetizer, and then it was it was like by the time we even ate, we were there like an hour. It was just incredible, and we were sitting down the entire time. It was not that there was a wait or anything like that. But once the meal got going, the food was on the plate. It was fantastic. Meal was great. The steak was great. Definitely one of the definitely the best steak I've had on property, and I've had steak in a lot of places, but you'd expect it from the prices. The prices are extremely high. I know Shula's Steakhouse over at the Swan and Dolphin is a little bit cheaper, and a lot of people prefer that because of that. But Yachtsman is a 2 table service credit and very expensive out of pocket. It may not be worth the 2 table service credits, especially if you have younger kids, because it's no entertainment at all. It's your typical upscale restaurant. So I love going over there. I love going over to the beach club and boardwalk resorts. I love walking around that area. It's nice to get away from the hustle and bustle, but be so close to Epcot and walk back over there after your meal for Illuminations. Really cool area. So I'm giving that credit for my one-time dining there. But like I said, it's sort of by default. I do enjoy many other ones, but in terms of my top 5, even though I've been there once, I think it definitely would get that title from me. So we get Chris's last one, or Rita, I should say. Any input there?
Well, it does sound like a place I'd love to try. Both of us being from Massachusetts and near Boston, that does have many fine steakhouses that I also have not been to. I don't know how they match up as opposed to ones that we have here. I am looking at the prices. They are basically online with your average high-end steakhouse. It is some place that I'd like to try eventually, but it doesn't seem like some place I'd go out of in the near future. If there's one place that I'm aiming to try to go to steak-wise in the near future, it would be Le Cellier over in the Canadian Pavilion, which I still have not been able to manage either reservations or walk into. So
just go for lunch, don't go for dinner. I don't know. Again, we may have an overrated show in the future, and that may make my list. I enjoyed it. It's just I think it's very, very overhyped. But definitely go once. I would highly recommend at least going once. You may love it. That's why we do these shows. Everybody's going to have different picks.
And Chris's last one is actually Kona Cafe, which he says has a great breakfast, probably the best on campus. They also have this drink you can buy. It's called a Lapu. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Chris is going back to the Lapu Lapu. He can't get away from him over from the Tambu Lounge, which is right next door to both Ohana and Kona. Kona, I like Kona. I like Kona breakfast too. I like Kona dinner, but I like Kona breakfast as well. You can get the Big Kahuna, which is basically like a platter plate, a little bit of everything. They have the Tonga Toast, which is certainly one of the more popular offerings for breakfast anywhere. It's definitely a popular item. Very, very heavy and very, very sweet and sugary. So if that's your thing, go for it. It's like French toast, but it's a bunch of like cream cheese filling and sugar. It's unbelievable. But Kona's a interesting place. Again, not much of an atmosphere. It's open air inside, not open air like as outside, but inside of the ceremonial house. It's open air to the actual environment. There's no walls. People walking by, they can see you eating. It's just divided by like a railing. So depending on where you're sitting, it may not be the most beautiful atmosphere setting, but good food, really good food, and this is a walk-up opportunity. It's not really one that you probably have to make reservations for majority of the time. So if you go there to go to Ohana without an ADR, you're probably going to get shut out. You may want to take a stop over at Kona, and they have some of the same menu items. You can get the wings over here, Reed, so it's definitely an option. No bar here, so just as a tidbit, if you're looking to dine solo at a bar, if that's what you prefer, or as a couple at a bar, no bar at Kona. It's over at the Tambu Lounge, the only bar here.
And according to their menu that they have up online, the Big Kahunas actually includes French toast, pancakes topped with pineapple sauce and macadamia nut butter, eggs, home fried potatoes, ham, bacon, and sausage. So yeah, and it's relatively affordable. So the Big Kahuna is $11.99 at last notice. So it's definitely someplace you can pay out of pocket if you are trying to be a little bit thrifty with your table services. If you have a limited amount or none at all, then it's a way to get over to Polynesian, which is one of the most beautiful resorts on property that you can go look into. It has a great waterfall in the middle, so it's worth just going over there to be able to take in that type of atmosphere. I have not been to Kona. It's something I may try in the future, but it's again nothing that I'm going out of my way for quite yet. I have many other options that I still need to fulfill as far as places I'd like to dine, but this is unfortunately not on my list.
Yeah, I understand that. Let's go into some listeners here before we wrap up the show. Some listener list. We've got to all yours, Reed, and we're done with Chris's, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's jump into some listeners. We do have some listeners that contributed over on Twitter. As Reed said, we're definitely looking for more lists. We want to get you on the air if time allows it. And today we do have a couple for you. The first one is going to be, you can get us on Twitter at V24Wonders. It's at V24Wonders. And let's see, at the WDW blog, they tweeted us their top 5 today. It's Ohana, St. Angel Inn, Jico, Flying Fish, and California Grill. So we definitely had a couple on there. And Chris had California Grill, and we all had Ohana. St. Angel Inn, I've dined there. Beautiful restaurant. I love the restaurant. Food I wasn't so happy with personally. Jico's a two table service credit over at Animal Kingdom Long, right next to Boma. Very, very beautiful restaurant. Never been. And Flying Fish over at Boardwalk. So some interesting picks there. Thank you for that contribution. Anything to add there, Reed?
No.
Okay, yeah, moving on. We got another one here from, it's at Zounders. In no particular order, we have Boma, Ohana. I always butcher this pronunciation. It's being from Boston with our Bostonian accent. Sana over at I'm horrible pronunciation with that word, so I apologize. I'm butchering it. It's over at Animal Kingdom. Over at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Brown Derby and Whispering Canyon. Interesting, Whispering Canyon. That was one of the ones that I was TDing back and forth before I went to Yachtsman. Really cool restaurant. I love the food there. It's my style of food. Great entertainment with the waiters, with the special, if you request certain things, some special things happen. I'll leave it at that. But Brown Derby, that's an interesting pick there. So yeah, cool little list there, and I apologize for butchering that restaurant there, even though I know what you're talking about. Any input there, Reed?
No further input. I unfortunately haven't been to a vast array of sit-downs. I did a lot more quick service on my last trip, but I'm sure in the future I'll be doing a little bit more sit-downs. The only other place I did the sit-down that didn't make any lists so far is the Liberty Tree Tavern, which is in Magic Kingdom. Decent food. It's pretty much an American affair. It's nothing amazing. The service was decent. It was a walk-in. I wouldn't recommend going out of the way for it, though.
Yeah, I actually went there last year, and I thought the same thing. It was quantity of food, quality was good. It was, it was very home style cooking. I think it was anything that your mom can make, or you could make at home for that matter. It was very basic food, but it tasted fine. Plenty of portions. It was all you can eat, family style, at least for dinner. I know lunch is a little bit different. But I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it. The dessert was good there too. Restaurant's really cool. I love the feeling of that restaurant. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I won't be rushing back there either, Reed. It was just okay. Good experience, but just okay. So yeah, I think that wraps up this episode. Top 5 table service restaurants, as Reed said. Give us a shout out on Twitter at V24Wonders. Let us know what your top 5 table service restaurants. We love interacting on Twitter. We'll certainly be responding to your listener input. And keep an eye out. Next week, I'll get that list out to you guys early, which one we're going to be covering. And we want your list. We're going to read them on the air. And like I said, we air on Mondays, 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on V24radio.com. It's V24radio.com. They're playing all Disney music. It's great audio over there, high quality stuff, no commercials. So if you're at work or even at home, want to put on as background music, you don't have to worry about any annoying ads or anything like that. It's great high quality, CD quality audio. Definitely tune in over there. We're there Monday, 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. We're also on iTunes now. Give us a search for Wonders of the World. Just search for it in the top right-hand side once you go to the store section of iTunes. Wonders of the World will be there. We're on Stitcher. If Stitcher's your thing. We're also, we're available in a lot of different places. It's a good thing. You can take us on the go. Or if you're at work on Monday, be sure to check us out. So this has been a proud production of V24 Radio. And for Reed and myself, until next week, have a good day.